Coach Calipari, is there a difference in the perception of the modern black athlete versus the modern athlete? Is there a difference in the perception?
Robin, let me say this to everybody before I even speak. It would be absurd for me to sit up here and tell you I know what an African American in this United States goes through or feels or did in the 60s. The only thing I can do is give my background in being a coach, recruiting black Americans all over this country, knowing their dreams, their hopes, their concerns, being in Memphis, Tennessee for 9 years, being close and friends with all the leadership there, meeting Reverend Cowles, who was on the balcony, and him telling stories of the struggles. And I would say, lastly, the coaches, from John Thompson to George Raveling, who's been a dear friend, to John Chaney. I know you're all saying, he tried to choke you, we're friends. And I love Coach Chaney. Bruiser Flint, who's a dear friend. So that's my background, where I come from, how I was brought up. But it's absurd for me to say I understand. I'm on this panel, but I'm coming at it from a different way.
That's very good of you to
say.
Now,
what was your question?
I knew he forgot the question. He was like doing a little shuffle. No, is there a difference? I don't know if there is or not. What's your opinion? Is there a difference between the perception of the black athlete, modern black athlete today, and the perception of the modern athlete? Is there a difference?
I got to tell you, my job as a basketball coach is to help these young players understand there are things and habits and different things they have to change to protect them from those kind of things, those images you see. Now, I've got to tell you a story because, Bob, you remember, one of the first all-access pieces done on ESPN was with my program at UMass.
Remember it well.
And I came down to Bristol and watched the tape, and it went on national television. I got in my car, and I got a call right after. I was pretty proud of it. They showed my kids going to class. They showed them at Children's Hospital. They showed them what they did. But there was a 12-second clip of my players playing cards in the room the night before the game. There was no money. They were just playing cards. Bill Cosby called me and killed me. And I'm like, Mr. Cosby, how are you? What are you doing? It's your job to protect them and not give that perception. Those are young people who are students, and that's your job. From that point, it's been important for me that if I discipline, I do it privately. If there's guys sitting out, it's always because of an injury. There is nothing that I'm going to do publicly that tries to damage the image that people have of my players. And it started on that show from Bill Cosby.
Yeah. I believe we have a question. Let's check our question in the audience. I believe it's for you, Marion. Let's see what it is.
Good evening. My name is Bria Griffin. My question is, do you feel the current image of the black athlete effectively portrays an appreciation for the struggle that Dr. King and his constituents endured?
Marion, your thoughts, yeah, whether the current image squares with, and I spent some time today with Martin Luther King III, and we were talking about that, and you heard it at the top of the show. How do you see the two fitting?
Well, I think one of the biggest differences in how the African American athlete is portrayed is this sense of entitlement. I'm the only athlete on the panel currently, and I think I am in a good position to say I am sometimes awed by how much the current athlete feels as if they're entitled. And it's one of the big differences, I think, from years ago when Jackie Robinson played, where there wasn't that sense of entitlement. You know, these kids today that are playing, that are performing, they haven't struggled like those in the past, but yet there's that sense of entitlement. And it's one of the biggest differences that after having, I'm graduated from the University of North Carolina and have benefited from Title IX I'm extremely honored to be on this panel, to be representing not only the African-American athlete, but the African-American female athletes, which I think a lot of times gets overlooked. But once again, it's this sense of just expecting that this is what I'm supposed to get. That is one of the biggest differences from possibly even when Martin Luther King was alive.
It's something that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. This morning, Bob and I were on Good Morning America, and we profiled some of the athletes during the course of the conversation, and it was LeBron James and Michael Vick, and on our message board, it came back, well, you're talking about Martin Luther King, so shouldn't you be talking about David Robinson and those? It was just interesting how the feedback and what people feel is part of Dr. King's legacy. Coach Shannon, how you doing?
Doing great.
You're over there all quiet and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts as we're discussing this?
Well, when you look back and you look at the athletes, you know, like Coach Callie said, you got to look at, as a coach perspective, of what is your job. My job at the University of Miami is make sure I protect the kids, but also make sure when they leave the University of Miami that they will represent themselves well in the community and throughout the United States. And when they go home, the parents wouldn't recognize them. Because when they see them, they say, wow, who's this great young man that I haven't seen for 4 years? And I'm just piggybacking off what something Marion said. When I sat in my office, I had a picture right in back of me on the wall. Picture of Jackie Robinson. Emmett Field, dressed in a nice trench coat, tie, and everything else, walking crowd. Nobody recognized him. And I said, could you tell me who this guy was? Not one player could tell me who it was until I identified and tell him who it was. And I said, when you carry yourself in the public view, sometimes it's not to be the most flamboyant guy, but the guy who get the job done and be the most successful guy. And that was my beliefs, is protect the kids and make sure that each and every day they challenge themselves to be the best that they can be on the field, but also present themselves off the field. Because in the long run, football is going to be over, basketball, baseball, for athletes. That's going to happen with all sports. But now, what you're going to do when you hit that 32, 33 years old, how you're going to present yourself from that point on to keep your life going, your family, and those things. And that was my whole point and my whole job at the University of Miami, to make sure I do those type of things.
And you were a fine example. You really, really were. You were there. We have a lot of young athletes that are here, and they were, before we came on the air, they had their BlackBerries out, and they had all this, they were tweeting and those kind of things. And we want that from you at home. We want to engage you in our conversation. And also ESPN.com and the audience here. I'm making my way over to Shannon Cross. What do you say? Shannon Cross. She is an associate editor at ESPN.com. She's making her TV debut. She's usually behind the scenes, but she's on TV today. And you're going to help us connect with the social networks, aren't you? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Actually, for you guys at home, we have ESPN.com where you can join the live discussion. We also have Facebook.com at ESPN. And also, if you're on Twitter, we have that covered. All you have to do is add the hashtag MLK Town Hall.
And so they can be talking to you, and then you'll share that with us?
That's what we've got.
All right. Thank you. What's up, Shannon?
All right. Bye.
Yeah.